Start recording. So welcome everyone to August's public OWASP board meeting. So I'll start sharing my screen real quick, and we can bring a start to the agenda. Okay, can everyone see my screen?
Yes, we can see it.
Yep.
All right, so that it's the screen with agenda and everything, right?
Yep.
Okay, so all right, so the first item is to approve previous meetings.
Excuse me,
so,
Sheree.
I take it folks have taken a look at it. Sorry?
Excuse me, it's Dawn. You have to do the attendance for the board members for record on the call.
Okay. On the attendance is myself, Sharif Mansour, Martin, Sandana, Grant, Gary, Owen, and Richard Greenberg. The next item on there is approving previous meeting minutes. Can I get a second?
I can second.
I second it.
Okay, thank you. So put Owen as the second. So we'll do a vote by order that I can see. So Owen?
Yeah.
Vandana?
Yes.
Grant?
Yes.
Martin?
Yes.
Gary? I think you're on mute. Yeah, still on mute.
Sorry, yes.
Great, thanks, Gary. And Richard?
Yes.
Okay. So now we move on to the reports, and actually the second one is the special meetings minutes. So we've had a second board meeting, public board meeting as well, and wanted to also approve this one. So can I get a second?
I can second it too.
Thanks, Owen. So from the top again, Owen?
Yeah.
Vandana?
Yes.
Grant?
Yes.
Gary?
Yes.
And Richard?
Yes.
And yes for myself. So the next are the reports.
You didn't ask me,
Oh, sorry.
but I abstained. I abstained because I was not present. I haven't watched all of them yet. So.
Okay, one other thing, Sharif, on the first minute vote, you didn't vote.
Oh, I thought I said yes for
All right.
myself as well.
Can you, all right, so now
Yeah.
I can add it. Thank you.
Thanks. Okay, so next on to the reports. Andrew.
Okay, I'm going to share my screen. I've got a little tiny
I'm
presentation.
going to stop sharing.
Okay. I just want to, there's quite an extensive executive director report this month, so I'll just take you through this highlights so that we can actually spend some time asking questions. I want to leave plenty of time for the business and Tom's report too. Okay, the KPIs, I hope you've had a chance to review them. We're doing okay. We've had a slight drop in membership, and we've had a dramatic drop in members visiting because of GDPR rules that came into effect. And unless people accept cookies, we don't get to track them. So we will need to go and watch this over the next few months to see if this is the new normal.
Andrew, are you sharing something?
I should be sharing my screen.
No, we don't see
No.
anything.
Okay.
So are you saying that drop of 370 then is actually tracked users rather than actual people visiting?
Correct. For GDPR reasons, they've got to accept and opt into the cookie before Google will actually track them.
But we've needed to do that for ages now, surely.
Okay, so essentially there has been quite the drop, and so we'll just keep an eye on this and make sure this becomes the new normal. Once they've actually answered it in that way, they don't get pinged all the time, so I don't think it'll grow. Still give us, relative figures.
Okay, Andrew, I had another question. I guess one thing that might help is the amount of traffic. So just instead of just looking at it by the cookies, actually looking at traffic volume. So even if folks are not tracking, maybe if you look at the volume and see if it matches a significant drop, then that gives you an indication of it's something more serious than just simply, we're not tracking it by Google Analytics versus the traffic to the site has changed dramatically.
Yeah, I need to look into that. I actually think we probably need to actually establish goals for things like joining, contacting us and things like that, rather than rely upon visits to projects and things like that. I do agree with you. Amount of traffic is probably better than visitors now. Let me keep an eye on that. We can go back and re-investigate any of the figures with Google Analytics, so it's fine. We'll just keep an eye on it. Our bank balance is doing fine. Again, I think I'll leave that discussion to Tom. We're doing better than the budget, but that said, we're still on par to, having a bit of a loss this year, which was totally expected. I'll let Tom talk about that. The biggest part of my update is that essentially we have to move on. The community is at war, and we need to actually heal. We need to come together and move on. So there is a motion today to do a few things. One is to affirm the Board of Code of Conduct, and I think if we can all get behind that again, you've all signed it, I think this will be very helpful for the community to see that the board is united again. You can always, as I say in the motion, you can always have fierce independence up until the vote, but after the vote, please get behind the vote and come together as one. It's really quite important that the community sees that we have our stuff together. So please have a look at the Board Code of Conduct, and I'd like you to affirm that you'll continue to adhere to it. That'd be awesome. Additionally, I've been looking into board training. Thank you, Sharif, for pointing out Board Source. At our income level, it is $1,750 a year. That's well within my discretionary limit. And since there was a motion on it today, if that passes, I will join us, and that's the obvious amount of money that will cost. And that will get us access to board resources, board evaluations, and additional training, which I'll encourage you to do. The vote last month in the special thing, the reality is that I do have an update on the compliance committee. We actually do have a compliance committee member here today. You're more than welcome to ask the compliance committee member, Bill, as to why the decisions may have been made in that way. But I need it for the minutes, and this is where I do ask, if you have an issue with the staff, please work through me. Please don't query our staff as to what the minutes are, and then, it's really important that we have these minutes accurate, and I was very confused just listening to the thing over and over again as to what the minutes should have said, and so I asked for some rulings, and I did this in a very neutral way because I needed to understand if the vote was valid, who was actually voting, and it came out that we can't do proxy votes. I'm going to ask council if that's actually something we can add because we've done it in the past and I think we like it. It's just we may not be able to. It also notes that the recommendations that we don't actually have Robert's Rules of Order, which I think would have clarified the running of that vote. I don't think it would have changed the vote, but I think it would have been a much smoother vote. And for an important topic that's critical to our community, having a clean vote would have been very helpful. So these are the reasons why I asked for an independent view. And so there's a number of motions here, 4 of them to be exact, to address that. The most important is actually to adjourn the special meeting and to affirm the Board of Conduct. Sharif and I have talked at the prep meeting, and he suggested I'm asking the board to focus on strategy instead of day-to-day operations. He suggests that we might want to consider a board strategy subcommittee. Obviously, I don't have anything on the discussion for that, so during the alterations to the agenda, if you want to add that to the discussion today, I'm more than happy. We can also bring it to a future meeting. I've got a...
Excuse me, Andrew, sorry to interrupt, just have a question.
Yes.
I don't understand. Can you elaborate on board strategy subcommittee? Because I think one of the most important things that our roles are supposed to be is strategy.
Correct. And in fact, my next slide is asking for a face-to-face meeting so the board can work out its strategy. I actually did ask for this to be scheduled a little while ago, but I haven't had any responses. So I'm bringing it up now. Realistically, with the operational plan, there is plenty of strategy to be discussed there. And so I'm looking for the board to inform me about what their strategies would be so I can operationalize that. In the absence of that, I've had to do some work. And I don't want to go too far off the beaten path for what the community has voted in. So it's important that we actually do get back to strategy. The last one I want you to consider is there's a discussion item on independent directors and council. I would like you to consider independent directors to assist with the clean running of the board. The main reason for this is actually to provide us non-profit experience and business experience. Alternatively, we could consider having council attend and assist the board with things like, for example, making sure that votes were held correctly. It's up to you. I've got a discussion item and I'll leave it for the discussion as to what you want to go ahead and do. The face-to-face meeting, I do want to go away today with an idea if you want to hold it at AppSec virtual or if you want to hold it sooner so we can get through the operational plan approval. Can I have a sense of when you want to hold your next face-to-face meeting? And it'll be virtual.
Okay, repeat the question.
Would you like to hold a face-to-face meeting next month, or would you like to hold it during AppSec virtual, which is our traditional one?
I would prefer to do it as soon as possible.
Okay,
I don't think it's relative or relevant to AppSec virtual, but since it's not in person, it's just another virtual meeting that we can do anytime.
Okay. So,
I have something to say. Can we keep it on the weekends? Because then we can, it'll be easy for us to join. And for me, it's mostly all the meetings are in the night. So it'll be easy for me to manage as well.
okay, that's a good suggestion. Thank you. So for Richard, nighttime for Bandana is actually quite early for you and me. So will that be okay if I schedule it from like 7 a.m. onwards for you?
You won't have me there.
Okay, what time would you like to see?
This is the good time for me.
Okay. Look, I'm going to set up a doodle to find out the best times for people because obviously there is a discussion to be had. I'd like it to be before the operational plan is presented to you at the next board meeting. So it'll probably be in the next couple of weeks. So I'll send out a doodle after this.
I can also do evening if you want to reverse the roles.
Okay. I'll offer some different questions. Okay, the operational plan is coming together. I have been widely consulting with committees. In fact, Richard, you asked me why am I dominating the conversation. I need to get the feedback from the committees, but also to let them know where we want to go. The reality is that I'd rather err on the side of consultation than just simply saying to the community, this is how it's going to be. There are town halls this week, please come. There's 3 different time zones. There's one very early on Friday morning, one quite late on Thursday evening, and one that's in US time on Friday afternoon. I've also been engaging the community on Slack, you might have seen that, and I encourage the board to actually provide their strategic view on those discussions as well. I'm trying to form a project committee. I've actually gone back to the people who previously volunteered and the folks who actually volunteered this last couple of days. We're getting some questions around how much time it might take, but the understanding is for it to be presented to you at the next month's meeting. To do what I want to do, which is essentially devolve to the committees and get the community to run and set much of the day-to-day policies, if you like, we need to avoid some things like shadow boards. We can't have a committee actually granting themselves additional funds over and above what the board has said. So I need to work with, I've already started working with Owen. If anyone else wants to work on the refactored Committee 2.0, the goal is to both provide guardrails, but also to provide the increased power to the committees, whilst also making it operational. At the moment, the committees are, it's unworkable. We need to fix a few things. So Owen and I are working on it at the moment. If you wish to participate, please let me know and I'll add you to the document and we can work together on doing it.
Andrew, can you add me to that?
Yep.
Andrew?
Yes.
To say, yeah, first I wanted to contribute, and the second is I can't see the town hall meetings on the OWASP board calendar on the Google. Can it be added?
Sorry, what can't you see on the calendar?
The town hall meetings, they're not on the foundation calendar. Normally I see things scheduled on a calendar from OWASP.
Okay. I'm going to touch base with you afterwards to find out which one you're talking about. So we've got a few. And I
see without normally events that are posted on Google Calendar, they can be seen.
Yeah.
And I see none.
Okay.
I don't see any of the town hall meetings there, but that's something operational for later. Yeah.
I think just to add, I think that's more a thing where Andrew posted on one of the sites where people can opt in, and then they get sent the details. So,
but that is publishing to his calendar, Owen, so he can actually just publish to the global foundation calendar.
Exactly.
I think it's just a setting that Andrew can make.
Please don't show don't show your calendar.
Okay, well, basically what I'm trying to say is I actually do have appointment slots, and that's a feature of Google Calendar. So people can make appointments with me and I'll promise to be there. And that's been quite successful. Okay.
Yes, of course, but also make sure that the events that you schedule, that they're also on the foundation calendar so you can see them. So you don't have to go to emails, but you can participate there.
Okay.
It works well for me if it's not too much effort, proper.
Yeah, we actually do have an events calendar, and I do see events today. We've got the August training, so I'll touch base with you, Martin, to make sure you've got access to that, and then we actually add these things to it, then make sure that I'm addressing your issue. Okay, policies. I had a meeting this morning with the Policy Review Committee. The reality is, I want to talk about the positives. One, the process is actually working. The review feedback is thoughtful and constructive, and it's working as designed. We are not getting piling on. Many of the themes are very consistent, and I think it's going to result in some better policies coming through. Unfortunately, some of the community is very unhappy with the way the policies were developed and the way that the review is going. And so there's a perception and lack of trust that the process is going to be transparent and fair. And so we might need to think about how we actually refactor the actual development policies to incorporate the board's strategy. My concern is that it can be operationalized and automated, and also it's low cost. We can't have policies that basically commit us to large amounts of funding because it'll actually reduce what we can do elsewhere.
I have two comments for you, Andrew. One would be, I believe, a very easy fix that would make the community much happier and alleviate some of that concern. And that is simply to allow the community to see the comments that each person makes for the policy, and any suggestion or recommendation. That way they can see what their fellow community leaders post. It's very simple, not to change anything else. I think everything else is fine the way it's been constructed. And if people can see it, then they'll feel that there's more transparency. And then go ahead.
Sorry, that actually happens. Once it's finished and it's been through the process, all of the commentary is published. That's the goal. That's actually in the policy. What we're trying to avoid is a situation where loudspeakers who provide their feedback in any case, we don't want to have the situation where the same themes from these very frequent loudspeakers then dominates the actual feedback. We need to have a more transparent feedback mechanism. I agree with you. And so every single piece of feedback that we're getting is going to be published. And Mike's on the call, and I believe Rick is also on the call. And they can describe that if you grant them permission to speak, Sharif.
Yeah.
So, Andrew, to add on to that, it's a good idea to take community feedback and especially the comments. So we can do that in the form of like a Google Doc or GitHub, wherein people can comment, and then we can pick up the details from there. And the comment also will be open for anyone to view. So it will be open and clear, and nobody will have questions.
So I think the development process is where we probably need that transparency, the open transparency for the entire community. And I'm trying it out on Funding NG and Membership NG, which has got some of the operational plan stuff going on. That's a branch. It's on GitHub, and you can log issues. And I already have some issues logged by Steve Springett. So, for example, I haven't looked at them in detail yet, but fundamentally, I think that's the best way for us to develop policy going forward. But I think the policy review process is actually a good one, and it's designed to provide an equal platform for all contributors who want to provide feedback. But I think the problem we've got is the way that the policies are currently built. We need to make sure that when we build them, people are aware that they're being built. As Mike said this morning, someone's got to write the words to start with before we can start commenting on them, and they don't write themselves. So it's really important that we actually make that as transparent as possible. I think that's the other end of it as well.
Right, so just to clarify what I was saying, Andrew, because I'm not sure. I think Vandana reiterated what I was saying, but you had responded in a way that didn't let me believe you understood. The viewers and the commenters need to see each other's comments before the decision is made, because this helps spur other ideas. I mean, this is a basic tenet of collaboration, right? We're basically asking the community to collaborate. If they can't see each other's comments, how are they going to collaborate? So to do it after the fact is too late. I just wanted to clarify that.
Sure.
I think definitely that am I mute? No. Yeah, so I think definitely that they comments must be seen, but also you want to prevent that people don't dare to write comments when you're on the review process, because it's two things: when you have comments to the policy or when you're reviewing policy. Sometimes, like when you do a speaker review for a conference, you have internal comments you just want to exchange with other, and that makes the process easier. But then the other side is what Richard says, the transparency of comments. So indeed, the ideas, when I see you have a remark that helps me to think about something else. I think there's two things. And definitely we have to kind of see how we can support both of them. But definitely all comments must be addressed before a policy has been reviewed. But I think that's part of the policy will be not be live or for a discussion without the review commenting in the public. Yeah.
So that's a board vote that would put this in place. Sharif was the sponsor of the original motion. Can I put a little bit of work onto Sharif to get the board's views on what that policy should say? And then we can possibly run a vote on that at the next board meeting or an e-vote if you all agree that that's where it should be. It sounds like there's a real disagreement in the way that it currently is founded, which was voted on by the board. I'd be very reluctant to change the policy without another board vote, but that's entirely up to you.
Did the policy specifically state that it would be shared after the policy was decided upon?
Yeah, the policy review process was unanimously adopted by the board, including you, Richard. So it was unanimously adopted.
No, I was asking a specific question. I know it was adopted.
Yeah,
Does it
adopted.
specifically say that it will be shared only after it is decided upon?
It says that all feedback and whether or not those feedbacks are accepted, rejected, or modified will be published at the time that the committee is done approving the policy.
Okay. So my apologies, I missed that detail, and I strongly object to that.
Now, what you are accurate in is that there's not a place that people can go see what is happening in real time. It's published at the time that the committee basically takes their release candidate and provides it to the board for their final approval. So there's two steps of approving, and everyone will be able to see all the comments and all the feedback that people have provided.
Yeah, just wanted to also respond to the concern that you expressed, Andrew, which is a real concern. I think we're a mature enough organization that we can handle a few extra loud people, right? They want to put a few more comments in. I mean, that's a small price to pay for democracy, right?
Yeah, to be fair, I actually have reached out to one of the loudest talkers, and we've had some really good conversations and come up with some medium ground in relation to some other stuff that I'm trying to reform. So it's always important to make sure that we reach out to everyone, but at the same time that policy does say X, and that's what we're following so far. I'm going to reach out to Sharif because it sounds like a good percentage of the board doesn't agree with the policy, and so it may need revision. And as you can see on Slack, we are actually engaging with the community on this, the policies.
Yeah, Andrew, so I said there were two things now that we're finished with that first comment I made. The second one is just a minor point, but it has significant impact. A lot of people spent a lot of bandwidth and a lot of time commenting on the policies, and it was put on GitHub. We do not want to just disrespect the people and throw those comments away. You can't expect people to do it all over again with the new process. It was already done. If we change a process, we must respect the work that has already been done. So those comments that are on GitHub need to be brought into the committee for discussion, just as if they were sent to the email.
And I've already documented that is the plan on the expense policy that you're referring to. All those GitHub comments will be included in the review.
I'm not sure if it was just expense policy, but as long as you're doing it, fantastic. Thank you very much.
Okay. I just want to move on. I'm going to take an action to talk to Sharif about this because I think there's also the policy development side of it as well. So maybe there's an opportunity to improve both ends.
Before we go, there's one, because I know we're half an hour over right now, but I just wanted to put one last item there. Initially, it was proposed as a board motion, and it proposed like a transparent conversation, right? You'd have like a Google Doc, and anyone can comment on any of the items, and it gets worked on a collaborative perspective. The feedback from the foundation was that they prefer to deal with it as a process, not policy, which the foundation can go back and actually present, and then they move on, but it doesn't get voted on. It's just a process that the foundation manages, and then turned into a process that is voted on by the board, which came to a surprise that the board voted on it, because I assumed the foundation needed the backing and the support for this, so that's understandable. So I'm happy to work with the foundation again, but it's important to understand that it was a circular discussion. I'm happy to go back and revise it to make it a little bit more transparent as it initially was.
Okay, no worries. I'm just cognizant of time, and I do want to let Tom speak. Tom's going to be talking about our position, and I just want to get people a little bit more comfortable. All conferences are concerning right now at this time of a couple of months out. A lot of big expenses have gone in, and we haven't received much income, and we are going to keep a very tight rein on expenses. There were some concerns about a $50,000 payment because there was a budget item in the budget model Z. It was within Vandana and I's, it ended up being Vandana and myself co-signing, and that was within policy, but if it had not had a budget, it would have been difficult. We've got past that. However, we have had a number of sponsors pull out. They don't like virtual events because of what happened at Black Hat. I think our platform is better than what Black Hat had, but that said, you know, you've got to respect people who are putting their money in. We're trying as hard as we can to provide transition packages that actually improves the situation for people who've already signed on for an in-person event that can't take place. There is a motion here to postpone AppSec Dublin to provide us certainty and allow us to plan. That motion does not consider moving Dublin into a virtual event yet. We want to see, before we sign anything else, we want to see what the actual landscape looks like. So there is actually a motion for this, and I'd like to actually probably postpone any discussion on that until then. That's that. So I pass the chair, pass it back to the Sharif.
Okay, thank you. So now we'll go to old business. I'll share my screen now.
I don't think Tom's had his report.
So let me open, is it the financial package link for July, Tom?
Yeah, and since we're over, I mean, all the information's here. I'm just gonna hit the highlights so that we can keep moving on, because I know we've got a lot of things to talk about. Through the month of July, we are $55,000 ahead of what we had budgeted for the first 4 months and the 3 months of the Z forecast. We're also $74,000 under in expenses. Part of that is due to making changes to the summit that we had, as well as project expenses, and the local chapter expenses are under. So as a whole, on net income, we're actually $129,000 better than where we thought we would be, but that's going to get eroded in the third and fourth quarter with everything that's going on. So what I really wanted to bring up today is, while we're sitting here today and looking at July, we were okay. We were actually doing better. We had $1.4 million in the bank. My concern is, as Andrew pointed out, the conferences. You know, we all know, we've talked about it for years, that we've become a conference organization. Right now, through July, we had about $400,000 worth of sponsorships that were in deferred income. Now, to Andrew's point, some have pulled out. That's about 25 grand from what I can see in August, which we're not done yet. But my concern is that if we've collected that, we're responsible for it. So with the next close, I will have an answer on what we've collected and what's still sitting in the receivables amount. But I wanted to bring that up, that is a concern, that, you know, we have it in deferred revenue at this point, and if the sponsors want to either pull out, or we can't find some way to show them enough value, then that's a risk that we have to the organization, on top of, you know, the chapter balances, which have been there for, you know, forever. I mean, other than that, for liabilities, we only had about 100,000 in AP. So, you know, it's that's concerning me as we move forward. And, you know, I built a forecast. I took the first 7 months of actual cash, cash in and cash out, which ties to the bank recs. I'm going to go over it with Andrew and Vandana, because I put August through December in there based on what's in the Z forecast. And right now, if everything happens, including the revenue from, you know, because it's a cash basis, it's when it comes in from the virtual event, and hopefully we'll be doing something for AppSec, you know, California virtually, because the cash would start coming in December. You know, we'll have anywhere from 900,000 to about $1 million in the bank at the end of December, which goes along with the Z forecast, which was showing, you know, a $270,000 loss. So at this point right now, I'm predicting, you know, at around a $300,000 loss for 2020. So with that, I'll take any questions, or, you know, you can email me if you have questions as you're reading through the material that's posted.
Just to note, AppSec Cali will not be running. The team has no plans at this moment, and probably Rich could just provide us a little bit more context on that one.
Okay.
Andrew, I have a question. You remember in the last meeting we discussed about the trainer and the foundation split, wherein the lot of portion was going to the trainers, like 81% split to 19% split, wherein you said you're going to go back and check, because from my understanding, the split was 60-40, and then it was revised to $3,500 plus extra, then $2,500 plus extra. So did you get the chance to speak, like check on that with Emily? Because
Yes.
that was also part of the budget.
Yeah, so the budget itself actually is, for the actual event itself, is where that particular trainer split came from. But the reality is, it is, and Mike, please correct me if I'm wrong, I believe we're having a flat payment for AppSec Virtual to address some of the trainers' concerns. But at the end of the day, we need to probably go back and actually review our costs. Once we've done this event, we need to review our costs and make sure that it's fair on the trainers. Because our expenses for training are just about as much as it would be for an in-person event. And we need to make sure that we're not losing money on training, whereas it used to be very profitable. So we're trying to look at virtual native options. For example, Bjorn wanted to do some free training at this AppSec Virtual or at one of the other events. And we had over 300 people wanting to do it. So I think if we can do some sort of lecture situation rather than training, we might be able to get a decent payment for the trainer and also some corporate sponsorship for us. So we need to look into the virtual native aspects as well. Mike, do you have any details on the trainer split for the AppSec Virtual?
No, I know that we did the April event and we did the June event, and then we modified the model because we were not doing as well as planned on the profitability, which is what we committed to the board. So I'm not sure exactly where this all landed because I've obviously been stepping away. We'd have to talk with Emily. So because I don't know what the exact arrangement is for August.
Yeah.
And
then I will actually loop you in with a conversation with Emily to get you exactly what we're doing for AppSec Virtual, but also what our plans might be post AppSec Virtual to make sure the trainers are getting a fair, shake at the bottle.
Sure. Thank you.
Thank you. Anything else, Andrew? Okay. So we move on to new business. So the first motion was to investigate and update board training. So I'll take this one because I sponsored it. The background there in recent events is to refresh the board training to make it more relevant and also allow the foundation to, on a regular basis, propose to the board new training material. So that is the extent of the motion. Andrew, if you have found a good training provider, which seems you have, that would be a second motion, a subsidiary motion. This motion is specifically to enable the foundation to review and propose updated training on a regular basis if they feel there's a need to update it for the board. So I had sponsored this and I put this up a couple of months ago. And Grant, I believe you seconded on email a while back?
I did, yes.
Still correct. Okay. If it's a second, then we can go for a roundtable discussion. And yep, is there any questions with regards to this motion?
I want to understand, so it'll be a one-time training, or you said that it'll be a continuous training. So will it be for the first timers? Like, how would it be? Because as per my understanding, we were thinking to have a training for the people who will be joining us after the new elections, and then the same training will be held for the current board as well. But as you mentioned that it's going to be a continuous training as and when required. So
well, it's more that it's not so much as it's going to be continuous training as much as it will empower the foundation to recommend changes on a regular basis. So this year, for example, we can propose a new training for the new boards onwards. There will be a recommendation for the current board to also review and take that on. And any changes will be required to be reviewed by the board. But what that means is that if there's a need to update the training material, or there's a better training material, it empowers the foundation to review it and present it to the board as and when needed. And in this case, we do need to be able to do that.
Yeah.
The short reason for this is that we currently all have these thin little books that were sent out to every new board member. That is the extent of training. And Sharif wanted to allow for the foundation to select something a little more 21st century.
Yeah, I think not only that, it's also the content, and yes, it should be the book, it's not a training. We all know that. So yeah, totally support us.
So this doesn't actually vote any training specifically in. This is just to allow the foundation the framework in order to propose training, which will be a secondary motion.
Yeah.
Would this also apply to the group that Andrew was talking about, the execs outside?
Not as it currently stands, because this is the board training. Refresh the OWASP Board of Directors learning material.
Yeah.
So if you wanted to include that, Gary, we should make modifications to this motion as it is.
I thought the impetus behind it seemed to be, and maybe I'm picking this up wrong, but the training and the involvement of other 501c or non-execs of other boards would be to just, you know, improve our processes and improve our ability as a board.
Yeah.
So that's another item down there, which I think that's what you're referring to. Is there's a discussion further down with regards to whether or not we need the independent board directors as opposed to this one, which is just simply training.
So the board source, which Sharif found for me, which his employer also uses, actually has a non-profit section, and it actually has board evaluations to determine the efficiency of the board and any improvements you might want to make, as well as the ability for boards to actually evaluate my performance. And so they've got a framework for that. So I like it. I think it's actually quite straightforward. You've got, once we join, we have free access to materials and training. That's online. There's PDFs you can download and read in your own way on your Kindle or whatever. And I think it would actually be quite helpful. Looking on Amazon, there aren't too many books for non-profits that are different to the ones we already have. So I think this is a better option.
Just a minor point, please. I don't know about anyone else here, but I'm done with physical media. Electronic is fine. Saves shipping, saves a little money to buy a book, you know.
They don't have I think the content on how it's not discussed. I think it's the new material, and yes, training should not be a book. It should not be it should be a course or whatever. Yeah, it should be 21st century, as Grant said.
Yeah, and technically, all this motion is doing is providing the foundation with the capability to select training. It isn't talking about what training that is. Board source is a good example, and it's that if that is the direction the foundation decides to go, then that will be a secondary thing, deciding to spend the money on that. Or if it's within Andrew's discretionary budget, then he can go that route. But this is about providing the foundation with a reason or a mechanism by which to arrange training, other than that Dead Tree Chronicles that Richard and I are so very unimpressed with.
Would this replace the books then?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I love the smell of old books. I have some books from the turn of the 20th century, but unfortunately, I don't read them anymore.
So that would
they're also probably not paperback.
Yeah. So right now, our board does say you have to have read the books before signing up to be a board member. If we're changing that around, we then are changing that under requirement. I mean, we might have to say, well, is it 6 hours of training you got to do, or is it 2 hours or whatever? I'm just highlighting that.
So when the foundation does make that change, that entry will need to be modified to reflect whatever the current training is.
No, it only says that we look investigating other solutions, right? That's all.
And I've done so. yes, the bylaw and the relevant signing materials do need to state what they're actually saying.
Yeah.
Andrew, last time there was a discussion around that if it has to be board source or something else, that actually the staff can decide which ones to go for the board. Because board source is one point of contact, but then there are multiple other mediums, other organizations which are providing such trainings. So based on the material and the requirement, the training can be done, if everyone is okay.
And this is literally just to give the foundation the capability to do that. That's right, Fernanda. That's right.
Yeah. Okay. Are there any further questions, or should we go to a vote? Okay. So by the order of who I can see, Martin?
Yes.
Grant?
Yes.
Vandana?
Yes.
Richard?
Oh, you changed the order on me. Yes.
Yeah. Gary?
Yes.
Owen?
Yes.
And myself is yes as well.
When Sharif got bumped and came back, Richard, his order would have been completely changed.
Yeah.
I have a Kindle right next to me, so I'm with Richard on ebooks. So, okay.
So I'm just conscious of time because we have about 30 minutes and multiple motions. So I'll try as best we can to time box those, but obviously making time for discussion. So the next motion doesn't have a sponsor or a second, but Andrew, can you speak to it quickly? And then we'll see.
So one of the recommendations from the Compliance Committee from the previous report on bylaws relating to election eligibility is to make sure that memberships can't be paid for by the foundation itself, because it doesn't really transfer or benefit the foundation in any way. And plus it opens up the perception, not the actuality, but the perception of a lack of integrity of our election. So those are two reasons alone worthwhile making this change. We can make it so that, for example, events who are paying for people's memberships can do so as a discount code. So we're not stopping that process, but fundamentally the idea that a chapter, a project, or an event can grant membership should be essentially removed. So that's what this is about.
Yeah, I think this goes hand in hand with the abilities of people who are devoting extraordinary amount of time for the foundation, get acknowledged with potential honorary membership, which accomplishes the same thing. And so I think as long as that process is indeed moving forward, that you know, both sides of the process can be respected.
Yeah.
Is an honorary member also able to vote? I think we only have
there's only one
total member. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, that's what I just want to emphasize. Yeah. Thanks.
Do we need to define what foundation funds are here?
Foundation funds are those that are essentially, for example, if we could look back at the APSEC Cali one, which is what the committee was actually looking back at, it's essentially saying that the event had essentially told the attendees that they were going to get free membership as part of their actual fee. And so what's really happened there is the profit for APSEC Cali was diminished to allow that to happen. I'd much prefer a discount code for that. So it's obvious that people are opting into it and not just getting it because they happen to attend one event.
I think that's not the same because I think that you can for conference say you pay, for example, 200 euros plus $50 for the conference, for a ticket, be a member. I think what is talked about is that volunteers at the conference have been given a membership. It's not a part of the conference ticket deal. I think that was the difference.
Yeah, so
yeah.
And in fact,
before we go too deep into it, just to make sure that we're following processes, if we have a sponsor and second, we can begin discussion.
I would sponsor
through a little bit. Good. Do we have a second?
I can second it.
Okay. So Martin and either Grant or Vandana. Let's say Vandana shouted louder. Okay. We can continue the discussion.
Yeah, I think that.
So in the scenario that you were just talking about there, Martin, if somebody working on a conference is gifted a membership, is that use of foundation funds? I suppose it would be. Okay.
That's what I said. Yes.
So this motion is about giving memberships away to individuals we think are deserving of them. Is not excluded from this. This is about buying memberships as a project or a chapter or another group.
Then,
right?
yes.
This is about buying membership.
Yeah, that would be the same as when my chapter would have funds, and I would buy my membership plus that of several volunteers from the OWASP chapter allocated funds. Same for events or projects.
Yeah, the result is the same for both processes. It's just that one of them looks suspicious, whereas the other is according to a more ethical perspective. But it essentially accomplishes the same thing, both.
Agreed. And we just want to make sure that there's no appearance of impropriety.
Yeah, I think that this excludes that when your conference can add a ticket that you mark, you pay more for being a member.
And that's what we've done with AppSec Virtual. We've got a price of $195 for members, $245 for people who wish to join, and $295 for those who wish to not join. So, yeah.
Yep. Correct.
Okay.
I like that approach, Andrew. I really like that approach.
Yeah, not to muddy the waters, but just we have to really be cognizant of the fact that it's hard providing perks for our memberships because our meetings are free. And so we need to come up with some creative ideas to make membership more enticing to people, you know, specifically in bold letters on every virtual event. And anything that we do, there's a discount or free for members versus, you know, similar to what you did for this conference. But once you're a member, you have to get something else. I mean, it would be nice to think that we have altruistic community members everywhere, but you know, money is money, and so we have to do more than what we're doing now.
Yeah,
I think it's a long time discussion already. We always said, what is the benefits for being a member? And I think we have benefits. Benefits is the reduction of conference tickets, stuff like that. A reduction of external conferences we're partnering with, but I think we're really bad in communicating this. And even what you say, when you do sports or your fitness club or whatever association you are, you pay benefits, you pay contribution to be part of the membership. And I think that's something that in OWASP that people forgot, that you are there, you play the game, you benefit of this community. It's also part of that.
Yeah.
Okay, I think Owen wants to say something. I see him waving.
I just did on the thing. I think that's a topic for another conversation. It feeds into it, but it's not 100% relevant.
In the operational plan on that, so let's reserve that for the face-to-face.
Okay.
Okay.
So we get the vote?
Yeah.
Yes.
All right. So Martin.
Yes.
Richard.
Switching up again. Yes.
Yes. Owen.
Yes.
Grant.
Yes. Keeping us awake here.
That's the plan. Or I'm not quite sure why you changed the order, but Vandana.
Yes.
Gary.
Yes.
And myself is a yes as well.
So how can we get all techies on this call, but they don't realize that Zoom puts you up in order whenever you speak? That's how Zoom works. So it's always going to change the order.
Depends on your settings.
All right, now
okay.
Now it's time for my once a meeting reminder that her name is Vandana, not Vandana, not Vandana.
Thanks, Richard. I feel better because we don't have a meeting where you don't remind us of that. It's always a bad meeting. So thank you.
Okay, moving swiftly along. So the motion to amend or create a policy to formally adopt Robert's Rules of Order. So this is the motion states the foundation is directed to create or update any necessary bylaw or policies that govern board meetings and any associated information informative documents to state that Robert's Rules of Order are adopted for the board meetings and special meetings. Projects, chapters, committees can adopt Robert's Rules of Order for their meetings if they so choose, but it is not required for the foundation.
How is it different?
That was sponsored by Owen and seconded from myself. Yes,
my question would be, because on our website for our board meetings, we already refer to the Robert Rule of Order. So why are they? Is this required?
Well, because we're not following them. For example, nobody's allowed to speak unless the chair recognizes them. You have to raise your hand. That's just one thing. So it's,
okay.
It's a little heavy-handed, a little onerous, but if that's what you guys want to do, just be aware. I would make sure you read them before you adopt.
Yeah. So again, if this is adopted, I'll make sure that you can either expense an ebook. There's a new version of them coming out in September 1. I recommend waiting until then, or I can get Dawn to send you a copy if this passes.
Andrew,
yeah, and
can
also,
I something?
I'm sorry?
Oh, can I suggest something?
Mm-hmm.
If you remember, as per our last discussion, these Robert Rule of Order keeps on getting amended. So which means we'll have to keep a track of it. And for everyone on the board, they have to be, they have to know that, yes, this is what Robert Rules of Order is. Then I think we can take a call on this particular motion. I support this because I have read through it. At least some of them I know about. But then I think for everyone to say a yes, I think we all should know, and we should be abiding by certain set of commandments or orders, or we can keep it on the website somewhere.
Yeah, we can
That's
do
just
that.
a suggestion.
Yeah, we can point at it directly, so that essentially there is actually an online resource for it, but also we can point out the current version of the book. As I said, there's a new version. They don't update it in print that often. It was last done in 2011, I think. Now it's 2020. But the new version is just about out. I would recommend that we adopt that version because that would affect the next meeting we hold.
so would you prefer to put this as an e-vote and review the version that we go through, or do you want to continue with this motion as is? Martin?
If I recall correctly, the Robert Rules of Order came in via Tom Tobias Gontron, who had back then a very formal way of having these meetings. And I think indeed our meetings sometimes are a bit sloppy. It's also me, myself, to blame for the accusation to others. And I think it's a good one to have them more formal and more professional. That's an important thing, yeah.
While I agree with the adoption of Robert Rules of Orders, I think that Richard's right. We should review the version that we intend to adopt, because there are some things that we don't do today, and it will change the way these board meetings run.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. So
Are we happy that that will work online in this format? Do I have my hand up right now or not?
So
well, you have your pen up, so.
It sounds like we need to table it, discuss what version, and actually outline the details as to what we will be abiding by before we vote.
yeah, and I think make it an e-vote.
Okay. So, right, exactly. So we can do that in time for September's board meeting. The next motion is to formally adjourn the special board meeting, August 11th. Sorry, Richard, you're saying?
No, carry on.
Okay, thank you. So yeah, the motion, it is resolved that after the technical issue cut short the special board meeting before adjournment, the board motions that the board meeting August 11th is formally adjourned. So yeah, this formality to just close it because we haven't ended the call with an adjournment.
What happens if we say no?
Any discussion?
Theoretically, it stays open.
Well, then it keeps on running.
Can I say something? Can I say something? I'm ready to say a yes, but then the meeting was actually overshooting the time. Like it was stipulated for some time and then it was exceeding half an hour, which is sometimes chaotic. So I think we can take care of those things.
Well, technically,
Okay.
this board meeting would have overshot by several weeks, days.
Yes.
Yes.
So again,
All right, everyone.
Robert Rules of Order would have actually helped there because there is actually a method of extending a meeting, or whether or not it would have been extended formally like we did, or alternatively asking for a permission from the citizens to extend the meeting. So yes, I understand that now.
All right. So should we let's go for a vote. So by Russian roulette, and the current board member that is in front of me now is Grant.
Yes.
Vandana,
Yes.
Gary,
Yes.
Richard,
Yes.
Martin,
Abstain.
Owen.
Yes.
Okay. Next up is motion
Sharif, did
to
you vote?
postpone.
You
Sorry,
didn't vote.
myself as well. Is a yes. Thank you. Motion to postpone AppSec Dublin. So yeah, motion. Sorry, go on. Okay.
Thought I heard a noise.
Yeah, I thought I heard someone start, but yeah, it's resulted in light of uncertainties with COVID. The foundation is authorized to make its best effort to postpone to 2022 or cancel the contract under force majeure, the Dublin event booking for the least fees possible. If the Dublin event is postponed to 2022, Berlin will become a 2023 location for an EU AppSec based global AppSec. A replacement virtual event may be authorized by the board after the conclusion of the October 2020 AppSec Days virtual event, depending on the financial performance.
Is force majeure in the contract now?
So we've been in discussions with the actual event place. Until they can lock down, I don't think we can invoke it. So Emily's on top of this. She managed to get us out of the San Francisco one for that reason, because California had just locked down. I'd like to hear from Owen about what's happening in Ireland.
So our number of cases have gone up to like 100 and between 150 and 170 or 190 or something like that. So a day. So it's a significant increase. There's lockdowns in 3 counties at the moment, with some easing of restrictions, and it looks like everybody's talking about it going into lockdown again because the numbers are going so high. So they're trying to not do that by putting in some more restrictions, but I guess we have to wait to see. So they said the 13th of September. The current level of restrictions are in place till the 13th of September, and then we'll see whether there's any change. If not, then there'll be more restrictions. But
in any case, I think the rules are still, like I know here in the north, there's only 15 people you can have together. Do they have the same rules in Dublin?
Yeah, so it's 6 people indoors.
Somebody just fell down the stairs.
It looks like as if someone falls.
Yeah. I hope everybody's okay who's listening, but there's also that may have met, and it's not only what it's about going on in Dublin, it's what's going on in Europe.
I think
because you see that already have closed down in Spain again. We have a code red for Belgium. Belgium had some code red for Amsterdam and other cities in the Netherlands. So.
And a few others.
Yeah. And the WHO already said they expect COVID to be continuing to 2023.
So I think Ireland has jumped up to number 3 on the list for the most cases in Europe.
Yeah, I think unfortunately and sadly, we have no choice but to postpone.
Can I ask a short? Is this a board vote? This is operational. This is for Emily to decide with the best. Because we're not experts in this, and even if we said yes here, Emily probably couldn't deliver it. So I don't get why this is a board vote.
Oh, because the financial impact is huge, and we're the guardians of OWASP, right?
Yeah.
And there's a vote
And
for having,
the financial impact of us saying yes would be huge as well. So not the financial impact is best served by people who are experts in events management and seeing the situation, deciding the best course of action. That's not us.
yeah, but there also has been a strategic vote for number of conferences a year.
Bear in mind that this
Yeah,
was also proposed by staff, right?
Exactly. So that's the other thing is it's proposed by staff, and the question is to also provide board backing of that decision. And that's what it is. But on the other side of the foot, there are times where there are some decisions that don't necessarily need a board vote that land on the board for additional support. And I'd like a little bit more questions on that, whether or not it actually needs to land on the board to actually vote, or have the foundation own the decision. Okay, so on that note, do we have any further discussion items here, or are we ready to vote on it? Going once, twice.
I'm ready to vote.
Okay.
I have to ask something.
Okay.
Are we going, like, we are not doing anything in 2020 to...
Non-physical, no.
Not physical. What we're trying to do is actually clear the deck so that we don't sign any contracts for physical events in 2021 to conserve our funds. And then we can plan for, depending on the performance of AppSec Virtual, whether we do a big event like that or we go virtual native, we don't know yet. So I'd like to just simply, because this falls into the next year's budget and we tend not to spend next year's money without the board's approval. So that's the reason why it's come to a board vote more than anything. It is budgeted, therefore Emily could do something about this, but at the same time, it's about next year's budget, and we'd just like to have a bit of clearance. That's all.
I just had one quick question, and if it was addressed, my apologies. I know that for San Francisco, we actually received sponsorship money, which is why we decided to not just call it another virtual event, but to actually say AppSec San Francisco virtual, right, to fulfill our obligations to the sponsors. Do we have sponsors yet for Dublin that we need to consider this?
No, we haven't actually reached out to any of our sponsors for that at this moment.
No, well, just a correction, Andrew. We have taken about $50,000 for the sponsorship funds for Dublin. So there is money in the bank for Dublin.
All right, so that begs the question, do we then want to change the vote to make this a virtual event? Otherwise we're losing that 50,000, right?
Yeah, I think the way that I was kind of speaking to Mike, Andrew, and Sharif about it last week was that it's probably virtual event fatigue, and we've seen with other global events that like Black Hat and so on, that people aren't happy with them, and there's about 20 different virtual events a day. So I think it's worthwhile postponing it until we inform whether AppSec San Francisco is successful. If San Francisco is successful, then we should look to move Dublin into a virtual event.
I don't think there's time. Isn't the Dublin schedule for February, or am I incorrect?
Yes, but Richard, there's the 50,000. I imagine that would stay. There might be a conversation with the customers whether or not that gets pushed to 2022 as well, or we have to reimburse.
Yeah, so we're looking to actually push it back to May if it becomes a virtual event. So it goes back to its traditional time slot. The reason why it ended up in February is that was when the hotel had a good discount. It is a lot more expensive to hold physically in May, but at the end of the day, basically, if we're going to reset the clock, I would like it to be May, so we've got time to run a proper papers committee and we've got time to actually reach out to our sponsors and get the actual platform developed. We've had a bit of a struggle and we're learning a lot right now, but I would certainly say if we're going to sign a platform agreement, which can be expensive in its own right, that should be done for the May timeframe.
That's a good strategy. So I think we should note once we take this vote that that also will be looking to decide whether we make it a virtual event in May, right?
Okay.
And that will be based on the success or not of San Francisco.
Yeah.
There's a comment on the chat, wherein how would any value be conveyed to sponsors for a virtual, aside from logos on the slides, etc.? If that's even a thing, there doesn't seem to be a practical analog to a vendor hall.
Give it an operational.
Yeah, I think I think it's a very good remark and open for ideas for Emily and the team. Yeah.
That's why we're thinking about virtual native.
So
we might end up doing a few more much shorter events that are sponsored by individual corporates, and that essentially then we just run training 4 times a year, because it is very difficult to get people to attend a virtual exhibit hall because we're not tempting them with food or making them walk past it. They absolutely need to be convinced to go. And so we're going to be interested to see how it works out. And hopefully it'll be better than what we had at Black Hat, because our experience wasn't exactly stellar.
Yeah, I mean, there's lots of different things, and that's the marketing departments of the variety of vendors need to be creative. You know, raffle prizes and a variety of other things. Of course,
well, again, yeah. Sorry, Richard. Sorry.
I think that we are kind of diverting from details vote to operational.
Yeah. So again, from the order I see, Martin.
Yes.
Vandana.
Yes.
Gary.
Yes.
Richard.
Yes.
Owen. Owen.
Yes.
Grant.
Yes.
And yes for myself. Okay. Appreciate there's some time. The last motion that we have is motion to affirm that the board of directors will review and adhere to the OWASP board code of conduct. So it is resolved that the OWASP board affirms that they have previously signed and will again review and commit to the requirements laid out in the OWASP board code of conduct, including all sections: code of conduct, board conduct with one another, board conduct with staff, board conduct with the public, board conduct with other organizations, sanctions, principles of proper conduct, and checklist of monitoring conduct. The board code of conduct is online and here for us to review and reaffirm. This is a vote to just reaffirm and make sure that we're all aware. Okay, so from the top, again, Martin.
Yes.
Owen.
Yes.
Gary.
Yes.
Richard.
Yes.
Grant.
Yes.
Vandana.
Yes.
And that's a yes for myself as well. Okay, that concludes all new business. We have at the bottom some discussion items. I appreciate we only have 1 minute, so there's one on the commentary on compliance committee ruling and a discussion on introduction of 2 independent board members. Andrew, do you advise tabling this, or would we like to extend the board meeting to cover these items? depending on everyone's availability. Apologies, Vandana. I appreciate that might be quite late for you.
I honestly think the first one, the background commentary, was more informational for the board to review, as per my executive director thing. I don't think it needs a lot of discussion. I just wanted to provide an explanation to Richard and others as to why I went to the compliance committee. I think the introduction of 2 independent directors is something that you can talk about at face-to-face, and I'm happy for that to be tabled.
Okay. So with that out of the way, I'll put a motion to adjourn the board meeting. Can I get a second?
I second that.
Thank you. And the board meeting is adjourned. Thank you everyone for coming, and I'll switch off recording now.
Thanks all.
Thank you.
Everyone,
everyone.
have a good day.
Sure.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
See you.